The last and probably most important play day of Unified Premier Week 7 and the regular season is finally upon us. This game means everything for postseason. My name is Chief Cast. My partner, of course, is Mr. Scott. Scott, it's been so long since we've casted together. It's been 2 weeks and everybody's forfeited. And finally, we don't have a forfeit.
Yeah, it's been interesting prepping to, go into a cast, looking at team stats, and then getting the notification, hey, you don't have to do any of that. So, I mean, it's nice to be back. Nice to see these two teams face off. Obviously, Surf Academy Esports, an entirely new roster from what we initially had at the beginning of this season, and that's why we're seeing them face off against Revenge Nation. Got to get that new head-to-head for them to see which one technically, I guess, takes the advantage over the other and see how it necessarily pans out. I am a little distracted. I will say that here, Chief. I am a little bit distracted, and I do apologize. That fan in the top right of my screen and the top right of your camera is just dragging my eye's attention this entire time.
Sadly, it's hit my armoire door one too many times, and now it's all discombobulated. So that's on me. And, if you keep watching the background, just avert your eyes and just look at my beautiful co-caster, Scott, the entire time. But as we were alluding to earlier, there are some big implications to this day. As you talked about, Surf Esports Academy hit the disband button a couple of weeks ago. They brought on new representatives. And why that's important is Revenge Nation lost the head-to-head against Surf Esports Academy back in week 5. But since there are now new representatives of Surf Esports Academy, we have to play that game basically all over again because both teams are sitting at a scoreline of 4-3, meaning that they have 4 wins, 3 losses, and the head-to-head was in favor of Surf Academy, which means Surf would usurp control and go into postseason. But to make things a little bit more balanced, we're going to have this game actually played out to make sure, the right representative is going into postseason. And it's refreshing to see such a close game today because we've been talking about how the top 7 teams are just so strong. And now for this 8th place seed, these two teams are equally as good. And honestly, Scott, anyone can take home postseason.
Yeah, and I think the biggest factor to determine really who is going to take it home is going to be the map bans. We're going to determine where we're actually heading to, what we're going to see. We'll jump over to that screen, and this is also where I typically decide who I think is going to win the game. And I'm going to go ahead and say that it is going to be Revenge Nation because they decided not to ban Chalet in a choice between Villa and Chalet. We're going to my favorite map in human existence here, Chief. What a great way to bring things back.
What a unique decision. The newest map to the competitive Rainbow Six Siege pool, Chalet. We've seen a lot of turmoil on this map, going from hyper attacker-sided to more neutral, and had a lot of plays during the Mexico Major, and we've seen a lot of new strategies come forward. And honestly, I'm eager to see what these rosters can bring to the table, but what you are alluding to, Scott, is Revenge Nation has been together for about 5 months, and Surf Esports Academy has been together for what? 5 days, if that. I mean, the experience that you need, the synergization, the utility clear required for Chalet is immense. If you're going to the primary bomb site of Bar, you have a Rooney Gates, well, My Pancakes, and Jaeger ADSs. And to have a team synergize and deal with all that utility requires so much structure, so much dry running, and so much scrimming that simply I don't see Surf Esports Academy having that background. Sure, you have great support players like Modelo joining the ranks of Surf, but is he going to be able to bring and unify all of his players?
I think that's a really important question. We'll go ahead and jump right into the gameplay and get things started, and I guess that's ultimately where it's going to be answered. But like you spoke about, Chalet is one of those maps that maybe a newer team doesn't have as much experience within, makes it a little bit more difficult for playstyles to move forward. And like you said, for 5 days compared to 5 months, Revenge Nation had that last ban. Instead of banning the map that's played very often, that is Villa, and of course all the other T3, T4 specials, they banned Villa and said Chalet is the right choice. And I think that, unfortunately, Surf Academy kind of fell into that pitfall, into that trap by not taking Chalet out early enough. And now I think they're kind of going to walk into the loving arms of this, I guess, well-regimented Revenge Nation if they've actually managed to just scrim and play this map.
I'm so perplexed right now. Crafty Kitten is in the lobby? I mean, apparently the teams that we have published for Surf Esports Academy is wrong. The former synthetic IGL is in the lobby. And boy, does Crafty also bring a lot of experience. He was, one of the players that I had the luxury of boot camping with a few times on the roster iterations of Synthetic. And one of the strengths he did bring to the table, he had a good understanding of how to deal with util clears, particularly on Oregon and Villa. Why that matters is Chalet has elements of Villa in it, particularly upstairs. So if Crafty's able to pull knowledge in from his experience with Synthetic, it actually might not be that big of a play going for a Chalet. But again, we're just in the operator reveal phase, and as operators are starting to get banned on out, I mean, nothing to me screams this is going to be a particularly atypical Chalet.
Yeah, the Thatcher ban's pretty, substandard for any map such like this. Ace being banned could be something somewhat strange, but having the Heartbreacher being taken out is not shocking. Wamai is a ban that's somewhat rarer these days, but with the fact of the matter that Jaeger has been nerfed so many times, Wamai has gotten a little bit more playstyle, a little bit more playtime, and some teams don't really want to face against those magnet pancakes to really deal with them. Valkyrie ban, once again, a very normalized standard ban, especially for a map that can be as wide and open as Chalet. Those cams can be in very difficult spots to find, up in rafters, up in the wood boards of the ceiling. Every single option you have to place those cameras is going to be detrimental to your side. There are counters. You could bring an IQ, but for a map like this, you need to be extremely aggressive, and each and every single one of your operators needs to be available at their peak efficiency, and that's why we're seeing the Ying get switched off. You can have more utility dump with someone like a Capitao to be able to smoke off and use asphyxiation bolts, a double-fronged assault to be able to cut off those sightlines and dish out the damage. A smarter choice than just destroying someone's retinas.
You hate Ying, man. When your eyeballs are burning and on fire, I mean, nothing makes you want to just like Alt F4 out of the lobby. But thankfully, we don't have to see any of that. And we mentioned util burn during the prep of this map, and one of those aspects is no longer a factor. And that's going to force teams to start to change up their strategies. We mentioned dry running and scrimming, and Wamai is a staple operator in that warm-up for all of your live matches. With him off the board, you're going to have to find some way of subsidizing your hold, and that's going to come through, I guess, the Runegates, which is not here for Surf Esports Academy. And that's going to put a lot of strain onto Goyo Bands, who's currently bringing out those explosive shields. If they're placed upstairs in the library, which is a typical place for them, how are they going to be safe? Because Revenge Nation can just come around the corner, dump their util, dump their nades, and all of a sudden that power position won't be as strong. You can triple stack your ADSs, but if you're bringing 2 sets of flashbangs for a total of 6, I mean, those ADSs are going to be burned practically in a second. And then that entire hold, your big grandiose extension upstairs in library will be no more. Plus, with Capitao in play, you don't even need to burn the ADSs. You just firebolt, and that player needs to run.
Exactly, and with the fact of the matter that Surf Academy actually banned out the Wamai, they just essentially shot themselves in the foot. It was a double-edged blade, and they accidentally held the wrong side. They have to rely only on ADSs, no pancakes to assist, and no Surrogates to help assist as well. And fortunately, that's going to mean their first player death is going to go to their side. Already, Moshi's taking out a very early kill taken by Big Guy. A second player now downed in library. That's going to be Exist, who might not exist for very much longer, as Nitro Cells will begin to rain down terror, tossed from one side to another. Chosen finds their chosen kill, taking out Bands. Gekyu stops the bleeding ever so slightly, but may be taken out in his own as he gets stuck towards those blue stairwell. Drip taken out from bottom steps, leading over towards main fireplace hall. It's Skunky who finds it. One player efficiently left standing for this side of Surf Academy. It's Gekyu who's able to find one with a Nitro.
Confirmed on a preset drone by Library that Mira's position is well known. He used one of his Nitro Cells, so now the only thing he has left to defend his person is going to be that Vector. High rate of fire, low damage. It can be quite a bullet hose, but he has to be very mindful of his ammunition. If he sprays too much, he will have none left in the tank, and you have to rely on that secondary shotgun. It's a dangerous position to be in, particularly with a 3-way crossfire. And Revenge Nation starts off the series excellent. You talk about teams with coordination. I mean, it's shown here in round 1. They execute practically flawlessly against Surf Esports Academy, who looked a little bit dazed and confused throughout that execute, kind of showing signs of wear and tear and showing signs of a roster just doesn't have that synergization yet.
Yeah, and I think you can agree with me here, Chief, for the fact that Revenge Nation is a team, an org that whether it be their main roster or their academy team. I mean, they've always had a well regimented and pretty standardized approach to most objectives. Typically seems to be one team will favor an extremely aggressive assault, while one will be a little bit more systematic. And it looks to be that this current roster right here for Revenge Nation is a little bit of both. They're able to be aggressive. They know when to push at the right moments. And most importantly, they know where to push to make that bullet wound hurt even more, essentially drilling their thumb into the open wound and gouging it even further. Surf Academy shot themselves in the foot. They didn't bring the surrogates. They're now going to bring it this time around. And Revenge Nation just said, hey, we know your mistakes. We know what you failed to do, and we are going to punish you accordingly. And that's exactly what happened. And that first round's result is entirely indicative of that.
And the synergy that we talk about from Revenge Nation, I mean, it comes from Big Guy, who has the runner-up experience in Challenger League Quals. That was back over a year ago on Depth Esports. So a ton of experience with him and the overall team. I mean, the members of Revenge Nation have been playing in the high levels of amateur esports, particularly in the Siege side, for quite a while. And that's something that you just can't overlook. We were talking about, the scrim experience, but what happens if just like in game time, in general, whether or not you're playing T-Hunts or you're playing ranked, that does start to add up. And while Surf Esports Academy does have a backbone similar to that, Revenge Nation has just been around for so long, something that you're just going to have to be mindful of it through every single one of your executions. Now, Surf was prepped for an aggressive run out through one of the 4 doors of garage, something that you don't see every day. But even if you don't elect to go for that rotation and start to fly out through the west side of the map, just having that hole in garage door is going to keep something in the back of the mind of Revenge Nation. They have to be very mindful, say, hey, there's a potential for this run out, particularly if Revenge Nation goes for the north side push coming in through Solar. Now, with 2 players, Big Guy as well as Chosen on that double north window, I mean, that screams that they're committed to that Solar style of execute, and they have to be even more mindful of this run up. But fortunately, Trev Mack is down below.
Yeah, an entirely northern approach for this Revenge Nation roster, like you said, 2 wanting to step into Solar. And then, of course, you've got Trev down below, hanging out inside of the garage, who's going to make a swift rotation over towards the opposing side and hopefully step in, maybe goes towards blue stairs and tries to push in through main hall. That could be an option. Needs to clear mezzanine as well. But in all honesty, I think that Surf Academy may be putting a little bit too much emphasis in this northern side, and that may be exactly what Revenge Nation is anticipating. They're working with what they have. They're watching angles in all regards. Trev Max on a very dangerous position towards that western side. Make sure he can watch that piano window, making sure that in a moment's notice, no one's able to step up and frag out where necessary. Once again, Revenge Nation will pick up their first kill of the round. Skunky's able to find one. Gekyu will stop the bleeding, able to take out 2, but it's still going the other direction as Treadback finds their own right back to Drip. Now, Revenge Nation, a player down because Moshi's finally finding their first.
Revenge Nation committed so much utility to clearing out the tuck corner of Solar. It didn't work out for them. They lost fire grenades, they lost their impact grenades, but they're able to eventually find that player who was causing so much pain. Gekku off the board. Instrumental 2 kills. It's almost like those kills were stemmed from the fire from the actual bolts itself, causing maybe some visual distortion, but without that utility, Capital Kenny only has access to his smoke bolts. That's going to be critical when we go for the plant in about 30 seconds. Is able to isolate some of those long lines of sight if he was alive. Great bullet hole punch holes now, and it's all on Moshi. He's going to have to be able to line up his shots. There's coverage from Skunky right now, and with the plant going down, Moshi not springing into action. Positional advantage for Revenge Nation with 42 seconds left in this plant.
Yeah, dangerous post-plant situation now for Moshi. Attempts to step in through that walk-in closet, entirely denied by Kenny standing inside and waiting for that moment's notice. It just wraps around that corner and just lets them fall into their arms in another, once again, successful round for Revenge Nation, who it started to look like the wounds were adding up for them, but they were able to bring it back in their favor and ultimately find a victory that was pretty handy for them. Once they were able to take out a very impactful player of Gekyu for that side, it typically was smooth sailing for Revenge Nation, and I think it might go the same way for Surf Academy. Skunky has been a player that is basically unstoppable for them. Chief, I talk about this all the time. I categorize them as a raid boss of sorts. When you see a player popping off that well, there's fear, there's anxiety in that fight, in that engagement. You see that player they're playing and you know it's them, you're going to shake a little bit. You're going to have fear. There's going to be that level of anxiety inside you. Do I win this fight? If I don't win this fight, everything will fall apart from my team. It's on my shoulders. And that's really where they thrive. And this is where we need to see Surf Academy stop picking 1v1s, or even in situations with the 3v1, as we saw with Gekyu holding in that solar room, and they need to start doing crossfires more efficiently in denying any of these Revenge Nation's simple, swift pushes.
I'm guessing you've been playing the new Destiny update, Scott. Hopefully you're enjoying that.
Sadly, I have not. Actually, I would.
You've
I
been
would
spending
like
too
to
much
frame
time
that.
in front of Best Buy waiting for your 30
I have,
series GPUs.
I indeed have been spending too much time in front of Best Buy listening to miners just talk about hash rates for 12 hours straight. Yes, Chief. It's exactly what happened.
Scott, as much as I love talking to you about, sitting in lawn chairs all day, we need to return back to round 2 and that master bedroom hold, because Gekyu was really the player, as you mentioned, that was the saving grace for Surf Esports Academy, but it wasn't because he necessarily won those gunfights. Sure, he did exactly that, but it was the utility from Revenge Nation that missed. Revenge Nation used 2 flashbangs, 2 nades, and 2 firebolts, and they all ended up missing. That's very rare where you can see that much utility committed to a particular execute and not a single one of them finds impact. Revenge Nation, I think, has realized that they can't really put their troops and put their utilities in the exact position they need to counter Surf Esports Academy, which is one of the reasons why, Scott, we're seeing the rotation away from that Solar Stairs execute that we saw in the previous round in favor of more of a traditional push, flooding in from the southwest side of the map using Library and all the buff rooms and exterior parts of the map as an advantage. Sure, that means you have to put more commitment into actually opening up the south wall, but since the floor underneath is all soft, you could remove the bandits or the caves in this place kind of easily.
Yeah, nades are a pretty effective source as well to remove out any sort of electricity, denying device. I mean, a Kite Electroclaws can be a little bit more difficult to get with a nade, but I don't think that's going to necessarily be a huge problem for this Revenge Nation roster. They're doing a pretty good job of droning. They tried to find Drip's old position, holding in behind short wall. Unfortunately for them, have moved away, and you'll see Trevmac doing what we like to call the home renovation here on Chalet, making sure this ski resort isn't going to be that useful. The wind will just be blowing straight through, absolutely no insulation whatsoever. Big guy who was ready to throw the second nade and actually make use of it. Not a necessity. It has already been removed. Now Drip's going to be the only person holding in office as that wall begins to be torn asunder, but these ex-Kairos pellets have chosen.
What a unique Cade placement coming out from Surf Esports Academy. You usually see invulnerable Cade, so that means 1 on the table, the east side of the bomb site, 1 in the top rafters. You're able to get all 4 walls. Surf went for a different strategy, and unfortunately it lost them their Cade, but what they're able to lose in utility, they gain in gunfights. 2 incredible kills for them, and now this is really the first time we've seen Surf Esports Academy come alive. They have a large man advantage, and it's just getting larger and larger. So many players from Surf are just swinging over by Piano, and they're just getting dividends after dividends. Their stock is just growing one by one. Trevmac, the only one left for Revenge Nation. He was one of the first casualties that we saw at the start of this round, Scott. He went DBNO practically at the start, relegated to 20 HP, and now relegated to the grave.
And this is another point of contention for the Skunky. Their first death in this match. And what do we see? Revenge Nation failing to take a round. And that is exactly what Surf Academy needs to do. They did a great job of making sure that any angles at which Revenge Nation attempted to pursue, like that front hallway entrance into Piano Room, was ultimately denied, not by just one player, but 2. Player behind Piano and player sitting in that bathroom doorway and hiding behind that tall wall. A great job by Surf Academy to deny, but they have to maintain that same level of play, and they're now no longer allowed to go back to that objective. They'll opt to go back to bar and gaming room. This one was once again a extremely unsuccessful for the defense for them last time around. And Chief, they're going to have to change a lot if they're going to see any sort of differences. They put a lot of emphasis up on Library, and Revenge Nation swept through there with the amazing utility dump that they were able to pursue. And Surf Academy had no chance to pick up any players who were downed. And in most situations, anytime they tried to even escape to any level of safety, were tagged away in the process.
round one stem from that my ban. I mean, even now that you're bringing a Rooney Gates, is it really going to affect the hold of Surf Esports Academy all that much? Probably not, Scott, because we see 2 sets of flashbangs, which means a total of 6 on the playing field. And sure, if you destroy one of the Rooney Gates, you're going to launch 5 more of your flashbangs downrange. You're going to guarantee the 3 ADSs and probably grab the player sitting behind the deployable shield. It's just going to be very difficult to hold those power positions. And what on earth was that visual distortion? We saw Rooney thunder punch the floor, and then I guess that was one of the holograms decided to close itself? I've never seen that before. So if you don't know what the Alibi holograms do, they basically have a Pokeball, they expand out flat, and the hologram shows itself. But when the floor was destroyed there, the hologram decided it wanted to go back into its shell? I've never seen that before.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what happened myself. I'm fairly kerfluffled, but a very swift Russian coming through that basement stairwell, stairwell window. They're just spraying and praying as they enter inside. Unfortunately, Gekyu gets a Nitro and Moshi just finds one with a gun. It's just completely falling apart now for Revenge Nation. Their swift assault being denied, but Trev finds 2 in the same moment, able to stop the bleeding once again. This time around, Trev Max, the player that's carrying Revenge Nation through this round. Skunky's already been felled. No UC utility for them. Chosen's going to have to make the rotation as well, looking for a possible entrance through that ski window. Moshi holding a very nasty angle in Fireplace Hall. Chosen has the better gun, you could argue, and unfortunately, Moshi has little to no HP. Just needs the sound cue to know where to aim, but Trevmac and Chosen have a minute and 45 seconds here, Chief, to work with what they have and push forward. Flash goes through. Chosen finds one. Moshi with the SMG. No, bearing 9 in the pocket, and now it's just Exist, who has to stay alive for a minute and 30 and get the job done.
He does have that recently buffed MX4 Storm 2.5 time or 1.5 time sight for him. It can be great at these long range engagements if you're able to use those mirror windows and the setup on the bomb side. He can find his kills. He won't be able to do so. It was a bait and switch, a change to the push with a 15-second call. A great return for Revenge Nation. Honestly, Scott, the initial rush that was called, it fell flat. I mean, we just saw the M249 Saw chime the entire round, mag dump, find 1 kill, and not receive any dividends after that. It was just a whiff and a whiff. We saw Surf find 3 impactful kills, and at that point, Revenge Nation, their Hail Mary round 4 rush looked like it fell flat on their face. Great for Revenge Nation to recall their troops, identify that the rush failed, and start to play it a little bit more traditionally, start to play it a little bit more controlled, and that's a sign of a good IGL. Because when you call a rush, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But what's critical, whenever you make a rush play, you have to be thinking about potential exit strategies and how you're going to stop that rush once you've achieved your goal, which is putting the diffuser down on the ground, or you failed your rush entirely like we saw in round 4.
I think one of the biggest factors we've seen is just how mobile and how acceptable that this Revenge Nation side is to just moving around the map and being a lot more all over the place than kind of keeping into the same strategy. When they realize something is going to fall apart, isn't going to work the way they want, they have no problem wasting 20 seconds to go to the other side of the map and find a new angle, because it feels like to Revenge Nation, it's not a waste. They're finding opportunities, and they're making those opportunities by being able to spread themselves out thin and relying and trusting those players to actually go off and stay alive in those predicaments. We've seen Trevmac do it, rotating all the way back through about towards the game side window. That double window is able to get that kill as they stepped inside. We've seen Skunky go up to the rooftop before and attempt to rush in. Kenny's done the same thing. They're so mobile and they're so ready to be at a moment's notice in a new position to work with it that it, like you said, it's really indicative of a strong leadership, of a strong, I guess, group mentality for this Revenge Nation roster. And we said that was probably going to be the weak link of Surf Academy, and I'm starting to see that go forward. They're able to hold on, but they're just not able to match the crossfires and the playstyle of this Revenge Nation roster.
Well, that's going to be really shown here in round 5 as Revenge Nation. They're going to go for a more traditional style push. Exist is stuck in the south corner of Library. What this means is he can get flashed into oblivion, get nade stacked, and fire bolted. It's a dangerous position to be. There's the nade, just cooked a little bit too long, but it still forces Exist out of his power position, and Big Guy capitalizes first kill in favor of Revenge Nation. They don't quite have control of Library. They have to deal with Moshi over by the mezzanine, but they have another crossfire. Revenge Nation, they're always setting up these crossfires. They're always prepared for these contingencies. And Moshi, sure, he has a deployable shield over on Mezzanine, but he is now in a 3-way crossfire. That deployable shield only shuts down one of those angles. Moshi has to be very careful in this position, and another angle is going to be exposed. His reinforced wall has been opened up by a 2x3 configuration, the X-Cairo pellets.
And a day just one is that. TrevMac is able to find one, but in the same process, Bands was putting some hot shots over towards Revenge Nation roster, just wasn't able to clean the job up, and took most of the damage in the process. Big Guy shows up big in this round once again, taking out Moshi, a 2v5, and this is basically what we anticipated. Not a very unprecedented result. We're seeing this Revenge Nation roster just walk circles, literally, as they're coming in through 5-6 different angles, despite only having 5 players, and just making it so hard to even step up. Gekyu steps up, though, and somehow Skunky misses that opportunity, but it is not to be lasted very long, as they'll just step forward and find the kill anyway. It's not a huge deal for this Revenge Nation roster. Could have been a flawless victory achieved, but just that one shy, and you're going to have to see a new objective here from Surf Academy. I would love to see them do Kitchen Site and attempt to hold that a little bit stronger. I think that the 2 tertiary sites for this map are really iffy, but with the way that we've seen Revenge Nation play, I'd rather defend the first floor as a whole than worry about any sort of extension, because when you're extending, Revenge Nation extends even further. And I'm sorry to break it to you, they're the Stretch Armstrong, and you're a Buzz Lightyear doll that has no stretch capabilities.
The thing with Chalet, and you're absolutely correct, Scott, you'd rather hold a bomb site vertically than actually just sit on the bomb site and die like we've seen on Master. But to be fair, Master Bedroom is one of the only, actually is the only bomb site back in round 3 that Surf Esports Academy has been able to win. And that just came down to their excellent gunplay. And, Surf Esports Academy, one thing that they do very well is when one of their teammates falls, they'll spring into action and guarantee those refrags. That happened the most back on round 4, and we'll conclude round 3 as well, since that's the round that was won. But on round 5, that element was nowhere. We saw individuals from Surf Esports Academy sit in corners, sit behind deployable shields, and sit in cover while their teammates are getting just brutally gunned down. Nobody was reacting to calls. Nobody was playing together. And you keep bringing up the strengths of Revenge Nation. It's the fact that they just play together as a team. And maybe it's stemming from, a roster being together for 5 days compared to 5 months, but it really does matter, Scott. When one of these teams is going to postseason, the other team's run in Unified Premier is over. And seriously, you have to do your due diligence, even if you're a 5-day-old team.
Yeah, it's a lack of preparation, it does feel like. And to be fair, I like a lot of what Surf Academy has brought to the table in most of these rounds. They haven't all been super lopsided, mostly coming down to a 1v2, a 1v3, 2v2, 2v3s at points in times, especially the first few rounds where it was extremely close in a lot of aspects. But the last few have not exactly gone that way. Surf Academy just got completely lambasted last round. Revenge Nation tore them apart just systematically and really didn't leave any room for comfort for them. And I think that's the biggest factor. Surf Academy can't feel comfortable on this map. And yes, this map is typically considered attacker-sided. It's kind of got a little bit more middle ground, but it's still considered that favor. And unfortunately, Exist missed too many shots to get those X-Kairos pellets, and Big Guy will capitalize, but already 1 kill has dropped for him as TrevMac has been taken out. Nitro tossed by Moshi, damaging Big Guy, but the firefight cannot be finished off as Moshi is using the Vector and can't get the reload off. Shoots the shoulder! It's going to be Skunky repelling on the outside window, taken immediately back by Drip Foolin, but it's not going to last for long as Kenny and Chosen step up, and now just Bands left in a 1v3. Pushes Bathroom, finds Chosen into a downed but not outstate, and Bands is just trying to stay alive, praying as he rotates back to that office room.
Great use of preset drones as well as firebolts, but Bands capitalized on it. He's able to see through the wall. A tiny hole was opened up from a previous engagement, but Chosen was brought back up. 20 HP, and Kenny finds another DB&O. He's down. It's a bad position to be in. Chosen's going to be felled by 1 bullet, but Kenny's going to be rezzed back up. All of a sudden, Bands has turned this round from impossible to very doable. He has a P10 Roni. It's a sledgehammer. It spits lead like a monster. You never want to be in the receiving end. And a long barrel can be perfect for him. But Chosen from the flank, he comes in from behind. It's Revenge Nation taking the half 5-1.
They looked phenomenal. I don't think there's any way we can really deny the 5-1. Yes, Bands had a very good attempt there to bring that back, but it was just completely in favor of Revenge Nation. They came into a point where it was a lopsided affair, and the phenomenal attempt there by Bans cannot be understated, but it just wasn't enough to ensure victory. And now with Surf Academy on the attack, it's an entirely new game for them. Usually you'd say, okay, I get one round, maybe two, to kind of get a feel for what Revenge Nation is doing on the defense, but they don't have that leeway now. Surf Academy failed to get more than one round on their defensive half, and now Revenge Nation has the wiggle room to work with. They can play any style they want and then completely change it up on a dime because their play style doesn't have to change, and they can kind of change where they want to and where they need to. But Surf Academies, they probably don't have 6 or 7 different attacking strategies like we've seen Revenge Nation bring to the table. They've been able to rotate, find flanks, completely change up the attack. When they realize that they've lost 2 very opportune operators in an early engagement, they know how to adapt to the ones they are left with. And typically it's just gun and find crossfires, but even when it's not, they're still able to make use of that utility and dump it towards the Surf Academy defense. And now Surf Academy needs to do the exact same thing. And with their current lineup for the attack, they've got nades. They have the explosive ordnance to work with, and they've got the 6 flash grenades, but I just don't like their current operator lineup. I feel like it's lacking in terms of information and lacking in terms of actual hard breach besides the Habana. There's no extra assistance.
Scott, did you pay off Revenge Nation? Did you bribe them in some
I
way?
did not.
Because your favorite bomb site's here. They read your mind. You know that, well, you want teams to go to Kitchen first, and here you go. Kitchen is first. Revenge Nation and Scott are the same wavelength.
I prefer the basement objective. That's my favorite objective.
Well, you're just wrong. Well, that's why
no. Here's why. It's so bad and so intriguing at the same time. I just love to see teams and how they go about it. Right.
All right. I can accept that.
It's not something you go to like. It's different when you talk about something like Cafe and you're talking about train museum, train mining,
and dining.
I'm not going to say that that's a good objective, despite it never being played. It's interesting, but it is a terrible. It's not going to be watched.
I will say.
Basement can be done.
To your point, teams have experimented with cautionary bomb sites, right? Mining and Dining, Wichita Wolves brought that bomb site out a ton, and they had a practically flawless win rate. Why? Because teams just never scrimmed the bomb site, and they had no idea what to do. And we've seen that through the Mexico Major, particularly on console, the map that's being removed from the comp pool. Teams were so used to not playing CEO upstairs. When CEO was brought out, they're like, uh-oh, I have no idea what to do. And that also is being shown here as Revenge Nation is just getting gunned down. Big guy elects for a run out, gets slammed, and everybody from Revenge Nation is now dead. 1 SMG-11 bro against 5. It's a shotgun in hand. The Mossberg is going to start the cycle, but it doesn't find its target. Bans gets the last kill, and it's Surf Esports Academy back in the series with a flawless round.
And what a great way to bring it back as well. Revenge Nation just... Where were they, Chief? I mean, runouts, terrible positionings. Why did we see Trebek lying down on the floor in an angle where that window could obviously see your feet in that position? It was not smart decision-making, and it did not look like the Revenge Nation we've seen this entire time. And to be fair, it didn't look like the Surf Academy we've seen the entire time either. They look like a new roster. They looked well regimented. They knew how to attack. They knew what to do. Their crossfires from big window towards master bedroom, one towards solar. They even had a great, flank denial down below on that boiler room doorway. And that's what ultimately was able to fell Moshi as they attempted. Oh, sorry, not Moshi. My brain for a moment there. Who was that? Were Kenny at the time that attempted to go from there? It shuts down the flank, and that's what you need. That's good strat making. That's good decision making. And Revenge Nation's, I guess, answer to that is to just find one of those. Just one of those. And you have completely denied that crossfire, and you've set yourself up for a better chance of success, but they weren't able to find a single person, and that was their undoing.
I did warn Revenge Nation when the series started when Surf Esports Academy goes over to attack, they have to be very careful of Drip Bullenstan, known as Crafty Kitten, is his real name, because he is a phenomenal IGL. He's having a rough series in the scoreboard department. He only finds his first kill back in round 6, but what he makes up in the lack of gun skill shown so far is with his brain. I mean, he is going to be the IGL that will make and break a roster. When he is firing on all 5 cylinders, he is going to absolutely slaughter every single defense. I mean, shown by that round, look at the synergy, look at the crossfires. I mean, the time that he had with Synthetic is showing for Surf Esports Academy. It doesn't matter that they've been around for 5 days. We're seeing Crafty able to pull in lessons that he's learned from other rosters, and it's super critical because he's played with some phenomenal fraggers in the past, and Surf Esports Academy is practically made up of anybody who can click heads, and that's something that's terrifying. Honestly, if you were to put these two teams together, I would say Surf Esports Academy probably has better mechanical skill overall, but it's what Revenge Nation brings to the table. It's going to be their team synergization and coordination that's really going to be the factor that ends up winning Revenge Nation these rounds. And Revenge Nation, they have to be very cautious of their defense, because the moment that they start jumping out windows and playing hyper aggressive, they're going to play into the style that Crafty loves to fight, and Crafty will be able to break that down because he's seen so many roster iterations that take senseless gunfights, and he'll be able to break it.
Yeah, and senseless gunfights are what really made Revenge Nation fall apart there. They weren't able to find the right angles. They got shut down from cross peaks, from X-fires, whatever you want to call them. And it just really didn't work out for them. And you would see they were able to find a 1v1, which technically I believe Gekyu was actually firing towards the main side of Fireplace Hall and was kind of got shot from the side and made it a little bit more difficult. But still a very successful first pick in this half for Revenge Nation, as they are able to find the opening pick here on defense. But unfortunately, Moshi's well-timed nade will make things a little bit more difficult. Bans on this floor, as we've seen these Rotero drones going out, they're not able to just gather information, but they can also remove a lot of utility. It really is an end-all be-all kind of operator, and that's one of the problems with Flores right now and why he's banned pretty aggressively in a lot of matches, because he's strong. Rotero drones are drones. They're information, but they're also nades. They're also explosive ordinances. They clear utility like no other. They make shields and these Vulcan shields completely meaningless, and then on top of it, you just have to get there, let alone to press the left click button to start the detonation, and at that point, you're bulletproof. You're set in stone, and it becomes all that much harder for the defense to step away.
Ooh, an early Nitro from Chevmac doesn't quite find its shot, but refrags between the rosters will do exactly that. Surf Esports Academy, though, they end up losing those particular firefights.
It's a little bit more difficult now. A bad situation in Revenge Nation, a 3v2, and now obviously you have Skunky, who's taken a little bit of damage in the process, but nothing too egregious to worry about. I think Surf Academy with only 2 players are extremely dangerous. No real utility in the hands of either Bans nor Moshi. You have no flashes, no nades left standing. It is a pure level of gunfight and engagement. They have to win these. And Chief, you mentioned it already. You said Surf Academy is the more well-regimented, I guess, clickers at this point in time, but it's falling apart quickly. Trevmac steps up with the MP5 from the other side of the bar, pulls out the secondary and finishes the job on the second, and completely denies this Surf Academy of taking a second round. Very well returned there by Revenge Nation. They're able to go up and now, finally, at match points.
Now, Scott, I missed the last half of that round. I ended up crashing on just about everything I
noticed,
had.
Yeah. I picked up pretty quickly. I was actually impressed with my own pickup there.
Well, Scott, that's just because you're a genius, man.
10,000 IQ. Yeah, it's I'm a genius, but I'm also on like 24 hours of no sleep, so, you know.
It's all those monsters that you drink, man. It just makes you a beast in the casting booth.
Monsters? Oh, that's a lot of sugar, bro. That's...
At least you're not Reese, my other duo, who has 4 broadcasts, man. I don't know how he lives. He probably doesn't have a bloodstream. It's probably just caffeine.
Good night. See, I like caffeine, right? You know, I drink...
Who doesn't?
You know, caffeine supplement things. You know, I've had my fair share of a sponsor for that. You know, I like, you know, Arizona green teas. It's caffeine, you know. I'm Southern, so tea is a thing here. Caffeine's nice, but at the same time... You know, I'd like to be able to go to sleep at night sometimes, you know, and that will definitely make it difficult.
What a boomer concept, Scott. Going to sleep at night.
Actually. You're right, yeah.
Well, dude, actually, I'm in college. At night. Those are gamer hours.
Yeah, I'm in college, and so my gamer hours are already significantly decreased. It makes it a little bit difficult, but, you know, I'll just film my class. It's not a huge deal.
Yeah, dude, just college doesn't mean anything.
I'll bring it up that a 38-year-old R6 caster told me that I was a boomer for going to bed early, and I'll just show my teacher the clip.
Why would you do quarterback like that, man?
Is that how you're gonna you know, throw the shade elsewhere? Is that how you're gonna?
I love Tristan, no man. I love Tristan. Tristan's the goat. With that being said, The goated bomb site is back once again. Scott, look where we're returning back downstairs to the kitchen. Unfortunately, though, in round 7, when this was originally shown by Revenge Nation, it really didn't quite have the punch effect that was desired. I mean, we saw that well-coordinated round from Surf Esports Academy. Again, we have to really rely on the strengths of Crafty. He has to be able to pull in lessons that he learned on Villa back when he was playing from Synthetic. And when you're executing downstairs on a bomb site as a vertical hold, I mean, there's plenty of bomb sites on Villa like that, particularly downstairs in the kitchen site, which is practically where we are, also another kitchen bomb site. And once you clear that first floor, once you deal with the ADSs and the Aruna gates, you're able to execute so quickly. You stem that with upside down window repel where you don't really need to take this map control. That's also one of the powers of this execute. You can literally just sit on windows, take no map control, and have one person droned in that's currently banned, but he's being monitored the entire time by an echo drone and ends up losing his life for not checking corners.
I think it was a big factor we saw from Revenge Nation as well in their attack. They did a really good job of gathering information, whether that be from their, Gemini replicator and Iana or just from the drones they had. They're still needing to supplement that information on the defense, and it worked out for them, but unfortunately that refrag did come through, and now Chosen, your Rooney player is now going to be able to, I guess, fulfill the role of information in their own little way. They can now sit on yokai drones as well, gather information from main cams when they haven't been shot out just yet by Surf, and there's a lot of variables for Revenge Nation to, I guess, kind of continue to swing this round in their favor, but this second floor almost entirely in control of Surf Academy. They're now going to start doing the open floor plan that we like to talk about so often here, Chief, of really just trying to show their real architecture talent as this sledge brings that hammer down and starts to make it difficult for a defensive team to step up. Kenny with an insane dodge there in that fight against Exist, somehow winning in that engagement. Now has to fight off Gekyu, though, in a position Kenny has seemingly dodged most of the visual looks from Gekyu. He seems to think he's on the opposing side. Skunky, though, is being taken out, but refragged back by Kenny, who finds his third right back to Moshi, and just the player of Crafty left standing in a 1v3, dropping down Solarium stairs. This does not look to go in his favor. Close gunfight already up, going in personal. Does manage to get some damage off to Kenny, but it's not going to happen. A Bearing 9, too much to contend with, and we will see Revenge Nation take this map.
What a strong series by Revenge Nation. Such an important series between both rosters. The new showing, the first ever time on broadcast for Surf Esports Academy, but they end up falling 7-2, and that means they will not be moving over into postseason. But there was some shining lights for Surf Esports Academy, Scott. For being a team that's been together for 5 days, what a valiant effort. What a strong round. And we have to go back to round 7, their best showing. I mean, that was probably the best attack and the only flawless round that we saw all series. So if we see this roster stick together, I'm certain we'll see them next split when we come back in fall, because again, they have all the textbook qualities of a great team, but the light is really going over Revenge Nation because they're the roster, the fourth and final team to enter postseason in their division.
And once again, we got to give, props to Surf Academy, like you stated. They're clinically talented. They have that, latent talent available to them. And I think that when they get that chemistry, when they get that, I guess, bonus to their team of being able to work together very well regimented and keeping your actual strategies cohesive, they're going to be a very difficult team to contend with. But right now, we just see too many cracks in their armor. The armor isn't put on correctly. You think about a knight, they have a squire that has to help and assist them to put on their shining armor. The knight can't do it himself. Heck, I can barely put on my own clothes myself. I'm colorblind. I have to send Snapchats to my mom to ask if this matches, right? I have to have some assistance to do that. So, I mean, it's pretty standard for people to have to ask for help, and there just wasn't enough coordination from Surf Academy. The only time we saw that was that round 7 where they had crossfires. They adapted that Revenge Nation attempt, and it just ultimately didn't matter enough. And Revenge Nation's, I guess, their cohesiveness throughout the entire game just adds up and puts the weight down and stamps down Surf Academy too far.
I think I need help finding a new duo at this point. Just kidding, Scott. I absolutely love you. But my friends, thank you so much for tuning in to Unified Premiere. Week 7 is now officially over. Postseason starts next Monday, 3 Pacific Standard Time, 6 Eastern Time. You do not want to miss it. Bracket will be published soon. But until next time, my friends, stay safe and well. See you on Monday.